I'm Russ Walker, and I am with Voto LLC. We are the signature gathering company that'll be gathering all the paid signature gathering, and we're here today to explain to you the do's and don'ts of the signature gathering process, so you don't make mistakes, you avoid potential pitfalls, and also avoid costly mistakes that hurt the campaign or cost you personally.
And I'm Ross Day. I'm the managing director of Vote LLC. And like Russ said, we'll be coordinating the signature gathering effort against the 2 tax increases that were recently passed by the legislature. And I'm also the attorney for the organization as well.
Okay, so the purpose of the training, go right ahead and hit it again. Go ahead and just cover it all the way down. We want to cover chief petitioner liabilities, and as we go through the training, you'll see that there's liability for chief petitioner, but there's also liability all the way down the campaign. So there's liability issues surrounding what the chief petitioner knows and doesn't know, down to the person actually gathering the signature, and everyone in between. The organizations you're representing while you're doing it, and that liability is typically through complaints that are filed at the Secretary of State's office and potential litigation resulting from it. We also want to, though, help you to be as professional as possible in the way you gather signatures, and then most importantly for the campaign, avoid costly mistakes that cost the campaign signatures because of a small technical error, or cost the campaign in dollars required to correct those mistakes by getting back in touch with you and so forth. Anything else you want to add to this, Ross?
No.
Okay. You want to touch liability?
Sure. I want to protect you.
Oh yeah. Protect you.
Yeah. All right. Next is the next slide, chief petitioner liability.
No, this is where we're going to talk about this specifically.
Okay. As far as the chief petitioner liability is concerned, there are going to be 3 chief petitioners for the referendum, and the chief petitioners themselves incur a considerable amount of liability, or are exposed to a considerable amount of liability. In this particular effort, up to $250 per instance per measure. So you're talking about if somebody commits a violation of Oregon election law carrying both petitions, each violation carries a $500 fine. Well, each violation that occurs on a sheet, say there's 10 signatures on the sheet, that could be $2,500 per sheet, $5,000. So the liability that a chief petitioner could incur is really substantial. Not to mention the effect it'll have on the effort itself, but the actual liability that a chief petitioner is exposed to in this instance is substantial. So the importance of following these laws and doing things the right way cannot be overstressed by any stretch.
And just so you just so everybody knows, when we did this before, Ross and I had an experience where everybody was named in the complaint. So you had the chief petitioner's named, you had the treasurer's named, you had the persons who were circulating, and every company they were related to or organization they were related to. So by the time they were done, I think they had 5 or 6 levels, maybe 4 or 5 levels of individuals named in the complaints, all of which were liable for mistakes made down here at the bottom by one individual. So the liability is extended to a large number of people when mistakes are made. So as we cover this, you're going to have a sheet of paper that explains all the do's and don'ts. You'll have in front of you when you get this training, but also we'll go through these things, and if you have any questions, please just write them down and ask us at the end of the presentation.
And the liability for chief petitioners doesn't matter whether it's a paid circulator or a volunteer circulator. The liability is, with certain exceptions, is virtually identical. So the paid circulators will have this training and then some that's mandated by the government. There is no mandated training for volunteers, which is why this is so important.